Hello. Ah, okay. Nice. All right. Cool. So hello everyone. Thank you all for coming. Before we get into any of the talks, we'll just kind of cover a little bit about the community and all that kind of stuff. So, how many of you guys have come to one of these events before? Yes, I recognize you. I recognize you. Okay. So most of you guys are new. How did you guys find out about this event? Raise your hand if you found out about this through Luma's Seattle Explore page. A few of you. Okay. Raise your hand if you found out about this through Meetup. A lot of you found this through Meetup. Okay, cool. So I got to post on Meetup more often. So that's what I'm learning. Um, so I'm just going to run through these slides real quick. Oh, this is actually the end of the thing. Okay. So quick introduction from me. Oh, before I do that, actually, let me just, has everybody got a chance to look at this slide? If you're looking for jobs in open source or AI, a lot of our partner companies will basically hit me up sometimes and be like, hey, we want to hire someone who's like a software dev or like a DevRel person. So if this is something that's interesting to you, I just send them this list. I don't really do much more than that, but if you want to fill this out, you can go do that. No phones out. So, oh, I see one person with the phone out. Okay. If you're specifically a software engineer that lives in the Seattle Bellevue area, and you're like someone with like 6 years to 8 years of experience who can run a full software development lifecycle on their own, and you want to work at a startup that is recently profitable, you can scan this QR code and fill out that form. Okay, I see a couple phones out. All right. And then this slide is way more important than either the slides before and way more important than any of the slides that will come after. So make sure you scan this QR code. You can find me. I've been told that this does not look like me, but I can guarantee you that this is indeed me, just at a different time. And if you see me next year, I might have hair like this again. I do cut my hair about once a year, so, you know. I don't see any phones for this, so this is, I'm assuming you guys all found this earlier. Yes? Okay, that's important. Those of you who found this through Luma, you were probably all subscribed to the calendar. Those of you who found this through Meetup, did you guys subscribe to the calendar? Did you guys register for the Luma event? If you register for the Luma event, you will get an email afterwards. I'm having this recorded, so you can get the recording if you want to like refer back to anything. And I might send out my slides. You never know. Okay, so I think everybody has scanned this if they want this. This is actually not relevant to this for hackathons. Speaking of hackathons, we are having a hackathon on October 26th. So if you want to come participate in a hackathon, it's a 6-hour long hackathon. Actually, it's an 8-hour long hackathon, but you only get to hack for 6 hours. I think it's actually, you only get to hack for 6 hours because we have an hour at the beginning for me to talk and give like a tutorial where we're going to talk about here's how you build an AI agent. And then we'll have 2 hours at the end for everyone to pitch what they've built and for the judges to judge what you have built. And if you win this hackathon, I don't know. I don't know what the prizes are yet. You'll have to show up and find out. So you have to show up and find out. But there will be prizes. I just don't know what they are yet. Okay. That's all I have to say for this, I think. Does anyone have any questions before we get started? No questions. Great. Okay, so we're going to have our first talk. Yucheng is going to come talk to you about AI businesses. I think you got to give it a second. You have the this one. mine is a 2021 Mac, so like it's pretty old. Can't blame the Mac. Typically, this system actually works really well with Macs. It tends to like mess up with Windows. Okay, I'm gonna get Anna.
Technical problems in that presentation. I do see a display now. Yeah, I do see the display here, but I'm not.
Okay. I wouldn't use it as a second display. See if you can just use it all as one single display. Perfect. Yeah, it's not. So when you, here's my question is when you plug this in.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. We do have a workaround if this doesn't. Yeah, no, normally it's
Oh.
heavy. Oh, now it's got lines all over it.
Wait.
No, I'm gonna guess that it's the dongle issue. My guess.
Okay, so,
Let's give. There's your background. Okay.
oh, okay, cool. Cool. Okay. Yes.
Fabulous.
Fabulous. Okay. Okay. Is this working? Cool. Okay. Yujian, you said this is recorded, right? Oh, is it? Wait. It's not working. Is it working? Okay, cool. Okay, hi. Is this working? Okay. Okay, so if this recorded, then I can't say too much. I can't be like brutal about some things, but it will do. Okay, so yeah, so here I am. I just talk quickly about the just a question or just startups, right? There's just kind of, do you have an AI business? Just as a quick, I'll give you a quick background about myself in a little bit, but first I would like to, let's keep this pretty interactive. So please feel free to just interrupt, ask questions anytime. These slides are hot off the press. They were done an hour ago, so it may be rough, but we'll go for it. So first, who am I? So I've done a couple of startups locally in the past. I've done, my PhD is in machine learning, though in a field which is no longer relevant. If anyone knows what a probabilistic graphical model is, no one cares about it anymore. So that was what I worked on. We had a startup in which was acquired by Apple in 2016, working on machine learning, making machine learning easy to use for everyone. And at Apple, did a lot of work on storage, among other things. And about 3 years ago, started a company called XetHub, which we were acquired by HuggingFace just 2-3 months ago. So now I'm at HuggingFace. So just quickly, what do I do at HuggingFace, if you care, which is a lot of our original core tech at XetHub was really trying to make data version control efficient. We are built on Git, and a very simple way, we make Git scale to petabytes, right? And at HuggingFace, we actually published this recently. HuggingFace right now manages approximately about, I think, 34 terabytes, petabytes, 34 petabytes of data sets and models. We just put up a Spaces bit, which is just all the analysis of different file types, Parquet models, and things like that. And so, what our goal at HuggingFace is to improve collaboration on models and data, so allow many people to just upload, download, just collaborate really on notebooks and data all at the same time, manage version control in the same way as Git does, which HuggingFace is backed by Git, and also really to upload and download models and data sets faster. Right, just make all of that more efficient, which is good for everyone. Who here uses HuggingFace? Yeah. So if you have downloaded or used any AI models, you are probably getting them off HuggingFace somewhere. However, I do not represent HuggingFace today. Ever since I sold the company a few months ago, I happen to have a lot of time. So now they have a lot more time on my hands. I decided, pop up, network, talk to people, talk to VCs, talk to startups, and really try to figure out where this strange new world is going. I mean, I used to be in the machine learning space. I was heads down building a startup for a little while. I was at Apple for a little while, and really what happened is I was at IA40, which is kind of a Madrona event a week or two ago, right? And just talk to people and learn a lot, and those continue a lot of conversations. So similarly, I would just like to continue a lot of conversations with anyone doing startups or anything like that here. I just like to keep track of where things are going in the future, right? And just because we are talking about AI, this is what happens. ChatGPT generates if I put in what I just said into ChatGPT and tell it to make an image for you and make an image, and it's networking. So clearly it still can't do text very well, but it will do. I said to make something like XKCD style. I will have to get back to you on that. But it's something like, now that I have more time on my hands, I did a pop-up network and so on. Yeah, so. Okay. So my goals today are really to share my thoughts, really, from paper reading, talking to people over the last 2-3 months, and so on, just getting it back into the ecosystem, and take everything with an extra large grain of salt. That's also a ChatGPT generated image. So, this is very kind of like my thoughts, my opinions, and just coming from summarizing a bunch of conversations we've had. So if we go back just a few years, 2021, right? This is a chart of the VC investments, venture investments over the last bunch of years, right? 2021, in a way, is actually, that's not right. This is an event of like GPT-2, 2021. It's just GPT-2. So I asked ChatGPT to summarize me, the AI trends and themes over the last bunch of years, and this is what GB4O said: explosion of AI-driven innovation, which sounds about right. It is basically this giant bubble here, right? And right at this point, we are seeing kind of massive investments in AI startups everywhere. Many startups were heavily overvalued at this point. ZHub was founded here at this time. We kind of rode the investment wave a bit. 2022. GB4 says hype meets reality, right? There's a lot. Here is where RAG and vector database really started to pop up. We started seeing AI being increasingly verticalized and in such a kind of narrower product domains. And in 2023, again, we see a slight decrease in investments, but still there's a kind of a big rise in AI art, content generation, stable diffusion, Runway ML. All these companies got really, really popular around here, as is coding and so on and so forth. Essentially looking for applications, right? The end user applications, right? But seeing all of this, it's actually remarkable that we see so much startup activity in the last bunch of years, but it was only very recent. 2023, I think about it as the AI epoch, right? BC and AD. This is a little forced. BC is before ChatGPT. AD, this is extremely forced AI disruption. This is, of course, a ChatGPT generated image as well, right? So, if we remember, ChatGPT really launched end of 2022. And that's basically, well, November 2022, and so it's like 2023. And all these things we're seeing, all this boom we're seeing, really, it's only been 2 years, right? And today's date is really only 1 AD. Well, coming up to 2, but yeah. So, question is kind of where are we today and where are we headed, right? And so, we're approaching end of 2024. So here's just kind of a bit of a random collection of observations. One, foundation models are now commodity, right? I've talked to people who have worked with foundation models. It used to be the case that you have to adjust your prompt as you switch between models. These days, not the case, right? You can pretty much use the same prompt. It will probably work across any other model. So models are essentially exchangeable, highly exchangeable. And the question is, what is cheapest? Find the cheapest, fastest model that does the job well enough, and pretty much open and closed models is irrelevant, right? The llamas are pretty much competitive with the GPT models and so on, and token prices are dropping over time, right? So this foundation models is going to be a race to the bottom, right? So in a sense, don't worry too much about the quality, don't worry too much about prices. Foundation models are commodity. Training and inference infrastructure is nearly commodity. And by that, there's many startups in kind of this inference optimizing space. And really, and of course, Auto AI just got acquired by NVIDIA a few weeks ago. Yeah. And the reality is that all these are kind of competing with the foundation model companies, competing cloud providers. Cloud providers will probably eat a lot of it. And just as foundation models are commodity, this is probably also going to be a race to the bottom. It's a question of, because if the foundation models are commodity, then it really just comes down to who can offer me the tokens the cheapest, right? Who at the right, and it's just going to be very, very competitive, very, very difficult space. This was from IA40. They just go like for 2024, people have not really talked about RAG too much anymore. Now the latest, the hot thing is agents, right? But of course, like the question is which. Frankly, the term has went back several years, but for me, the question is always, what is an agent, right? What defines an agent, right? And we can talk at length at this. I can have a whole talk on this, but I kind of break it down into a few components. An agent is just an AI system, a system with 4 components. You have planning, you have memory, you can take action in the world, and you're able to reflect to go back to improve your plan, or based on the results of actions, go back and make improvements and iterate, right? And I think some of people working on different components of this, in the manner of speaking, GPT 401 is basically improvement on planning, longer context window to give us better memory, but action and reflection is still pretty open, right? And even planning is still pretty open in interesting spaces as well. And of course, when we talk about taking action in the world, the question is, what is the world which this agent operates in? Defining this world is important. And in a way, if world is real world, you're trying to attack the AGI problem, and that's probably a bad idea as a startup. So kind of like looking for narrow worlds to attack. Like for instance, Auto is very narrowly travel agent. Travel drop zone is very narrowly drop zone security, right? I think Multion is looking basically at web page interactions. That is a misanimation. We will get there. Real use cases are emerging. Bio chip design, supply chain, fintech, security, and really right now you can get funding from increasingly narrow domains, right? Really narrow domains which you can do very well at are more important. So the question is, what is your moat? I will get back to this later. I think I intended to delete that line. Okay. Right. So Yeah, and also the last thing is kind of investment trends, right? If we look at the current investment trend, this was a chart I shown before. This is now the chart in kind of like deal count by stage, right? So something we will see is that just proportionately there's a lot more early. This is the pre-seed and early stage. Is a seed and pre-seed funding is up significantly, rather proportionally just in terms of total count. There's a lot of new early startups. Now is probably a good time to raise pre-seed or seed money. But of course, VCs are very focused on applications and product market fit right now. As again, 2021 startups is a little overvalued. So raising later stages can be tough. And so there's not a lot of kind of like the middle stage, Series A, Series B kind of deals, which is this was a New York Times post from I think a week or two ago, which is CRV. They returned a late stage round to investors because they could not find companies to invest it in that will give them the return multiplier. Right. And so, yeah, similarly, right now, for the similar reasons, acquisition market is also very tough because companies are really unsure what they're investing in. So still early kind of seed, pre-seed stage is probably a good time now. But really the key right now in terms of themes, right, where the market is going, where we're going is a transformation from AI as a product, as in I'm selling AI like GPT, to evolution now, which is a question of, what is AI as a feature, AI as a capability, as a thing which helps improve the product, improve the user's experience in some way or another, right? It's not enough to just AI in the pitch deck. It cannot be the main selling point of the startup. It's a thing that you use to make your application or make your domain better, right? And so if I were to think about like what a AR business today for 24 will need is find PMF. It's not enough to just go, we are attacking an AI problem. It's not enough to go, we are attacking an inference, or there may be still space in AI ops, LLMs, but I think it's a challenging space. But really, you have the important is find product market fit, solve a real user problem. AI is a feature, not a product, right? And really, as well, thinking about, what is your moat? Is it data, or is it domain expertise, or is it something else? You want to own data. You want to have something which ChatGPT or OpenAI does not have, right? A really good takeaway from the I40 was like, if you are nervous every time OpenAI releases a new model, you do not have an AI startup, right? Because it means that you have no moat, right? You want to have data which OpenAI will never be able to get, like company private data, internal data, something of that sort. They have no incentive nor capability to train on because they are highly personalized one way or another. You want maybe domain expertise in kind of very narrow fields in which you can very narrowly fine-tune or improve your user interaction in ways which OpenAI is not going to, right? Or something else. Right. But I think this, if anything, there is a good key takeaway here is if you're nervous every time OpenAI releases a new model, you do not have an AI startup. That might be the best summary here. So I got to pause here for a bit. Any questions? Not that I know. You want kind of like a router, really, a meta router, right? I know people do it themselves, right? I know a few people who have done it themselves where they will just use a little model to go, is this prompt solvable by the smaller model, or is this prompt require a bigger model? And people will actually train like tiny model to do that. It's kind of like it's very domain specific, right? I know people who are just really. I think a good thinking here really is thinking about it's. I have an thought which goes like, AI is just machine learning, just with a different wrapper around it really, but ultimately the background is really just machine learning. So a good way to think about that is, have a test set, right? Come up with a test set of train test pairs, or like evaluation pairs, right? Evaluation output, and you want to just take this, run it through an expensive model, run it through a cheap model, and see, have some way to evaluate and see, hey, does the cheap model give me the quality I want, right? And if it does, that's fine, right? So, yeah. Sorry, can you speak louder? I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question a little bit louder? Sorry. Right. Sorry. So it's going around synthetic data or kind of like data which a company has internally. I see. So I know synthetic data is being used. I'm not entirely sure exactly in what domain you may have to like kind of domain specific. But I think one way to think about like company specific data is that, data which for instance say I'm a healthcare provider, right? Hypothetically, or I'm a lawyer, right? Hypothetically, right? And then I may have data which is all my contracts, right? And I want to answer questions around my contracts. That is data which only I have and OpenAI is not going to have, right? And so those become if you want to be able to own the data because that is your moat. If once you get the data, they can't go anywhere else, right? And so if you the question is, can you take that and can you add value within that, even if you're just using base models under the hood, right? You may not even need to retrain new models, right? Even if you're just using base model under the hood, the question is like, how can you use all of these AI things to add value to their data in ways which you can't just get by going to ChatGPT and typing in a prompt, right? Yeah. Okay. So going forward, I think if we're going to talk in 2024, it may be worth thinking a little bit ahead. What will 2025 and 2026 bring? And I don't know. Who knows? Can't predict the future. But we can. But I can think a little bit about just patterns, right? Historical patterns, how we got here, and just a little bit of a general reflection, right, on just the field of ML and AI over the last 20 years, right? And we go back pretty far, actually. Professor Tom Mitchell of Carnegie Mellon first defined machine learning as machine learning is a study of computer algorithms that improve automatically through experience, right? And we also think about this very famous XKC comic about identifying birds, right? When a user takes a photo, the app now should check whether they are in a national park. That's easy. Check whether the photo is of a bird. I'll need a research team in 5 years. Not true anymore, right? But still, it's kind of a good reflection on what has changed, right? And if I were to reflect a bit, what we think of as a computer algorithm or computer program has changed, right? It's not, we can't really think of just a computer program as just lines of code, right? Like today, I can probably do find bird by calling llama 3 because it takes images, right? So the border of what is easy and what is hard has really shifted several times over the last few years, and it will just keep shifting, right? Right, and I think this is the challenge that we need to deal with, and the reality is kind of future AI native engineers will have a very different intuition about what is easy and what is hard. Today, like writing evaluator for like number plus number is easy for code and actually alarmingly hard for AI today, right? But but still kind of like the general border is going to change, right? And the rest is kind of the next 2 or 3 years will be interesting, and kind of like as builders, all of us here, and it's important for us just to kind of fight to keep up to stay relevant, just because of how what is easy and what is hard just keeps evolving and are changing so quickly. And we end with a quote from Terry Pratchett. There's a curse. They say, may you live in interesting times. And the next couple of years will definitely be interesting times. Yeah, thank you. Questions? I don't have too many comments on that. I think it's I think a lot of this comes down to it's a thing where it's we tend to underestimate what can be done in a year and underestimate what can be done in 10, right? And in that sense, I don't know. Are we projecting too far out? Are we going like it may actually be true for kind of like the risk of AI and so on may actually be true in a manner of like 10-year time frame, but maybe not in a 1, 2, 3 year time frame, right? And I think that's there is probably going to be a reckoning. I don't know. And I can't even begin to predict. It's more right now it's more a philosophical question. Yeah, I think, but really there's going to be I think then we'll need to be a fundamental rethinking of the architecture that I don't think the transformer is sufficient, right? I think there will be a next step. New innovations are going to be needed to go to the next stage. Oh, yeah. I have not been following the robotics field quite as much. I know there are a few companies working on embodied AI, right? I think that's kind of the term I think people are giving a feel. It's actually remarkable that when I was doing a PhD, there was entire research groups working on trying to figure out how to fold a T-shirt. Extremely difficult problem, right? Because like non-rigid physics, remarkably difficult problem, and now we seem to be able to do it. At least there was a video. I don't know how repeatable it is, but still, now you seem to be able to do it. So, but I think I would love for it to come. I would love for that to be robotics. I would love to not to ever have to clean my house again. But I don't know if it will. I don't know if this will be quite as soon as all the other LM AI stuff. Yeah. No, I think it's a research project. Yeah. It's part of this. I think they're trying to go really kind of like what is how do you build something that can be helpful in the home, right? For people for old age, for more elderly folks and things like that, right? I think that is now that's right now the goal. I think that's might be a lot of interest in Japan because of the aging population, right? So I think that is definitely interest, but I honestly have not been really tracking the robotics side quite as closely. Sure. Okay. The question is Pinecone the best vector database to use? I will point to my blog post, which is you do not need a vector database. but that's a whole other thing. But yeah, but I think that's a longer argument. That's a longer argument. But wait, Eugen, you want to take that? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so Eugen, now you agree with my blog post. Anyway, whatever. So okay, I think the reality is kind of there's going to be a trend where the vector database will start getting a vector search will start getting integrated into all the SQL databases. It's already happening. All the established databases, Microsoft SQL, I think Postgres has one, MySQL I think has one too, right? So I believe so. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it's just going to start integrating all these databases, which is really, really nice because it means you automatically get the power of all the rest of SQL joins and everything all along with it. I think that's going to be a trend. Is someone willing to pay you for it? Yeah. Product market fit. It's basically exactly a product market fit question. Is someone willing to pay you for that? Right. Yeah. Okay. I think happy to take any questions offline. Oh, okay, sure. You actually Eugene, why do you come and set up while I do this one? Okay. Yeah. Okay, I can try to repeat. Yeah. Mhm. Yep. Right. Oh, so the question was around using AI for diagnostic medicine. I think about in particular. So the question is kind of like false positive, false negatives, and accuracy and so on. I think really it's really not very different from using machine learning in the past, right? Where even more classical models and so on. Really, I think the big thing is how do you use the model, right? It's like the AI, the model should be used in a way that augments the doctor and not replaces, in my opinion, right? It should be used, like for instance, uh, a thing that takes lung cancer, that takes a lung image, a molecular lung image, and just returns lung cancer or not particularly useful. I think I think there's a whole collection of reasons why that's not good because even doctors, even if it's highly accurate, doctors will just may just use it, or people will just use it without really understanding the context, the distributions in which this is sensible to be used, right? People will just forget about alert and just use it anywhere, right? But alternatively, a UX design where it just points out unusual anomalies, right? And so that a doctor can easily go like, hey, there's an anomaly here, point it out to the doctor, and so on. I think those are useful. So that's where really the product side of a lot of this come in, which is who are you selling to? How If you're selling to doctors, you want something that's useful to the doctor, not something that replaces the doctor, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Right. So to repeat the question is power usage for AI models, right? And whether I guess whether that's a problem, that would be a problem. I think for me, I see it just if you go back historical trends for really anything in computer science, the trend will always be those things will get models will get smaller and faster, right? And we'll eventually run good things anywhere, but there will always be the really advanced models that will require like a supercomputer, for instance, right? And that is fine. But I think vast majority of models, actual use cases, the models will get smaller, and we are seeing the trends, right? I have a graph somewhere. If you were to plot trends, just how much performance you get per parameter, that is actually getting increasingly efficient. Parameter efficiency is just increasing over time, right? Today, like Llama 13B or 70B will be roughly equivalent to like GPT 400B from GPT-2, GPT-3, 400B from like a year ago, right? So parameter efficiency will get better. So as general trends, I don't think we will get to a point where we'll need a incredible amount of power. Do we want to? Okay. Okay.
Pass them off. All right. All right. Obviously, Yucheng has given an amazing talk, and there's a lot of questions, and you can harass him later. Okay. Now I'm back. I hope you guys enjoyed my first talk where I introduced what we were doing, and hopefully you will also enjoy my second talk. So I think this is a very relevant topic. I decided on my talk topic after I heard what Yucheng was going to speak about. And I also was sitting over there making my talk as this was being talked about. So this is also hot off the press. So what are we going to talk about today? Basically, we're just going to cover a bunch of examples of some seed stage startups building AI dev tools, and we're going to talk about some of these patterns, right? So one of the themes that came up in Yucheng's talk was this idea of product market fit. And for more context, OSS for AI, the organization that I run, the group that is hosting this event, basically, we also do a bunch of events down. I keep saying we, but it's really just me. I also do a bunch of events down in SF, and as part of the events I do in SF, I get a lot of these companies that are building seed stage AI developer tools coming and pitching. So I get to see a lot of the patterns that are emerging in early stage startups. And like Yucheng was saying, one of the biggest investment spaces right now are the seed and pre-seed stage companies. So if you are thinking of building a seed stage or pre-seed stage company, I would highly suggest that you think about what I'm going to talk about today, and think about what is missing from this set and maybe why it's missing. Because just because something is missing doesn't mean it's necessarily the best idea. Okay, so I'm going to give you a QR code. As you guys have noticed from my slides, I love QR codes. These are the most amazing thing ever. This will send you to a YouTube playlist where you can see 25 different pitches. And then if you click into my YouTube account, you can see the rest of the talks. 25 different pitches from these startups. And we're going to cover 26 startups today because actually there's a lot more that have pitched. I just don't have them all separated out yet. And so I only have 25 uploaded at the moment. But you can cover all these 25 pitches. The whole thing will take less than an hour. All of these pitches are about 2 minutes long. So the first company we're going to talk about, by the way, this is reversed chronological order of the playlist. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is a company called Fine-Tune. So who's heard of fine-tuning models? Okay, a few of you. Okay, so fine-tuning models, nothing to do with this company. What they do is they help you build and test agentic frameworks in they help you build and test agents in multiple frameworks. So who here has heard of LangChain? LangChain, okay, a lot of you have heard of LangChain. Llama Index. The same people. Okay, yeah, that's because you guys have come to my hackathons before. So evidently, I'm the one bringing LangChain and Llama Index to SF, to Seattle. Gosh, okay, all these cities, they start with S. It's all the same in my head. And they help you simulate some usage, right? So basically what they do is they're a platform that helps you use multiple frameworks and test it out. So this is kind of useful in ways that you can kind of imagine, like, hey, if I want to see what this would be like in the real world, one of the problems that you'll face with agents, for example, is they'll do like recursive calling. So they'll call themselves or they'll call another function within the agent multiple times without getting a result. And so you kind of see what the real life behavior of these agents would be using a platform kind of like this. Another company that has come up is called WhyHow AI. they do data infrastructure for structured contexts. So one of the challenges with LLMs is that LLMs are these generalized intelligence platforms, right? Like that's why everybody in SF is talking about this thing called AGI, right? Artificial General Intelligence. And they also are only trained on so much data, but new data gets new results, new data, new technology, all of these things happen all the time. And so one of the ways that you can augment LLMs to be better with certain fields is to have SMEs, subject matter experts, provide you information, and then you can link all of that information in a context and put that into an LLM. So that's what this company helps you do. How's their pitch received? I think pretty well. Most of these companies have pretty good pitches. Actually, I was talking to one of my friends down at SF, and she's like a VC, and so I was like, oh, like, you know, like if you want, you can like see all these pitches, and you can talk to these companies if you want. I can, you know, send you an email. And she was like, can you just connect me with the smartest people? Like, who's the smartest ones? I was like, I can't tell you that because they're all really smart. They're all really cool. So it was received well, is all I can say. The next one is Element. I called them LMNT when I call them up to the stage. You'll see this in the thing, but they pronounce it Element, and they do text to speech. So there's some other text to speech companies that I haven't put on here. But does anybody know any other text to speech companies? Anybody else? Has anybody ever used text to speech in any application? I don't know if they do text to speech now. They might. Grant does it now. Grant has Aura. Yeah. Text Cloud. Okay. Really? Was it robotic at all? Okay. Okay, so Brits sound like robots. That's what I'm getting from this. Okay. Google. Yeah, Google's text speech is pretty good too. And Google Translate? Yeah. Yeah, okay. That's how I learned how to pronounce Chinese. Um that wasn't a joke. Okay. But they do text to speech. There's a bunch of other companies that do this too, like Cartesia, 11 Labs, I think. Oh man. There's a few others, but they have slipped my mind. Oh, PlayHT. So text to speech is one area. I just put one of these companies on here because only one of these companies has come to demo, and I've seen what they've actually do. There's another company called Reckon, and what they do is they do API integrations, and they use AI to create API integrations. So who here has worked with APIs? Most of you have worked with APIs. Okay, great. Who here has had trouble reading API documentation? Okay, great. And who here enjoys reading API documentation? No? Okay, one person. All right, so typically, if it's good documentation. Okay, so actually, you know what? You're going to see something later that you're going to like because there's a couple companies that have been doing docs too. But basically what they do is they say, hey, you know what? Skip reading the documentation. We're going to create it for you with AI. So it was pretty cool. Their demo was also well received. This one is actually not a startup, but they did pitch. They call it small to slides. So this is kind of comes back to the thing about like Llama Index. So one of the Llama Index people who used to run the Llama Index TypeScript library created this concept of chunking in RAG, like a chunking strategy in RAG, where you use like a small amount of text, you embed a small amount of text, and then you put like the paragraph inside of the vector database along with your the vector of the small text, so that when you pull data from your vector database, you have more context to work with. And then he also came up with this idea called small to slides. I also think it was really awesome that he presented his presentation for his initial idea for this small to large context thing at one of my events in SF. And actually, I think my first event in SF. So that was just last year. Oh, and so additional commentary on vector databases. If you have any additional questions on vector databases, I can answer them. I worked at a vector database company for a while, so that's why I know about them. Okay, next company is called Helicone. They recently won Product of the Day on Product Hunt. Has anybody heard of Product Hunt? One of you? Okay. a few of you. Does anybody else think that Product Hunt is a pyramid scheme? Okay, this is being recorded, so I hope Rajiv doesn't watch this. Rajiv is going to be like, yo, how could you say that? Anyway, they recently won Product of the Day on Product Hunt. They do LM observability. Who here has heard of observability, model observability? Great, observability platforms. Okay, so this is very popular. You're going to see another one soon. One of our sponsors, our sponsor for our last hackathon was Arise. They also do observability. They're also sponsoring our next hackathon. So there's a lot of observability companies in this space. And then another one is Komodo AI. I thought they had a great name. Like, this is just really cool. Like, who here has seen a Komodo dragon? Yeah, you guys, like, have you seen like the nature documentaries with David Attenborough's like, he's like what's the word for it, narrating it, and there's like these like huge lizards like walking around. If you haven't, you should totally watch, like, I think it's on Planet Earth. And they're these like really cool lizards. This is really off topic, but Komodo AI does GPU clouds with developer platforms. I was like talking to the people who did this, and I was like, how did you come up with this name? And they were like, well, we just thought it was a cool name. And I was like, I agree. But they abstract a lot of piping data and infrastructure. So who has trained their own ML model before? Okay. Oh, great. Okay. Some of you guys are ML engineers. Who's fine-tuned their own ML model before? Okay. Who enjoys the process of setting that up? One of you. Okay. So somebody here would not be a customer. Clearly, you'd be like, why would I use this? I want to do that myself. But the people who built this came from that background of being an ML engineer, and they were like, we think this is really annoying, so we're going to abstract this out. And they're going to be presenting at our next SF event. So if you're ever down in SF, we have an event November 4th. They're going to be presenting there. Yeah, question. No. They don't like they don't do anything to your model. They abstract out all of the data like piping layer, right? So like you have to move data from like, you know, S3 or wherever, and then like put it into like a data frame or blah 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 blah. So they give you the GPUs, and then they also provide like a platform on top of it that allows you to basically ignore doing that. Yeah. So actually, there's a lot of companies that give you the GPUs, right? Like AWS, Google. You know, all these different companies give you GPUs as well. So they do something that kind of sits in that middle layer that kind of combines those two layers. Yeah, so I actually talked to them about this. They actually don't use any of the cloud providers' GPUs. They have their own GPU data centers, which I thought was absolutely insane. I was like, you're like a C-stage company. How did you manage to do this? But they have like GPUs in different data centers around the country. Yeah, it's pretty innovative. Okay, and then the next one that I've seen is Code Flash. So basically what they do is code optimization. Does anyone here actually try to optimize their code after they write it, or do you write it and you're like, this works? Okay, anyone optimize their code? A few of you? Do you use it through Copilot? I don't know if Copilot optimizes your code, but if you think it does, maybe it does. I don't know. You can ask it. Yes. So if some of you guys will optimize your code, I think that's pretty uncommon if you work in big tech. I don't know. I was an engineer at Amazon for a while, so you know I can say that. And then they run and generate test cases for you, right? So this is also something that I don't. Does anyone like writing test cases? Yes. No. Kind of. Some people you like it a little bit. You just really like tedious things. Okay. Yeah, yeah. I don't want to think about generating. I don't want to think about test cases at all. You know, I want it done for me. Cursor does it pretty well. Great, because we're going to talk about that at the end. Patterns. Okay, Toolhouse is a platform for AI agents. I think we've seen something like this already, right? We talked about something that allows you to build fine-tune, which allows you to build AI agents off of multiple frameworks, which basically naturally evolves into building a platform for AI agents. That's what they do. I don't have a lot of commentary about this, but they do. Oh no, that's fine too. Never mind. Okay. Zenly is an AI software engineer. Has anyone seen any other AI software engineers in the news in the last year? Yes. Devin? Yes. Okay. Any other ones? Bolt? Okay, cool. So that's two. Zenly is a third AI software engineer. Later, we're going to see another one that's an AI software engineer. So I think the pattern that you can think about here is that if you're a software engineer, who's a software engineer? Yeah, your job is getting taken by AI. No, I'm kidding. This is probably not going to happen for a while. That's my personal opinion. Okay, DevDocs. Who was talking about documentation? You like reading good documentation. You should check out this company. Their link is docs.dev. I thought they got a really good domain name. And they use AI to generate your documentation. I mean, that's pretty much it. Like nobody likes writing documentation. Nobody likes reading documentation. Let's abstract it away. There's another company called Spike Intelligence. So this one's really interesting in terms of like the founding team for this company. The founding team founded this company after they went to a hackathon and they got kicked out because they broke the model. So they went to a hackathon, went to an open source hackathon, and then they broke the model. And who's heard of the Golden Gate data set? The Golden Gate data set, where the model, like if you fine tune it on a certain data set, the model will always reference the Golden Gate bridge in its answer. Yeah. So you can have models do that. And so what they did is they figured out how to do that, and then they straight up just ablated the neurons. So anyway, you can see how that's very useful, right? So if you're at Delta Airlines, I fly Delta all the time. Delta, please, if you're watching this, please sponsor. I fly Delta all the time, and if you get a customer agent and it always references like, hey, like blah 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 Delta Airlines and its messages, then you can see how that could be really useful for you. So if you're Microsoft, Amazon, whatever, you can see how this could be a useful way to do this. So they found a way to break it, but instead of trying to sell that, basically what they said, it was like, they're like, oh, because we're such good hackers, we're so good at breaking things, we're going to sell you this security by breaking all your models. So that's what they do. Then there's Cloud Code, which is end-to-end scanning for debugging. So if you have bugs in your code, so if you don't write your unit tests, if you're like me and you skip all your unit tests, you'll find bugs in your code, and they will help you do that. But if you use one of the, if you use this one, then they're not going to find any bugs in your code, hopefully, right? And you can use these together, right? So if you use like this one, which is an AI software engineer, and you use this one to scan for debugging, then you get a full end-to-end software engineering, workflow. Exactly. It's great, right? So that's what they do. And then there's another one called AnyShift.io. They do chatbot for DevOps, an AI search engine for your cloud infra. So like, if you're building like, does anyone build on AWS regularly? Okay, Azure, GCP. Oh, wow, this room is like surprisingly split. Okay. But if you're building on any of these, you kind of know like there's a lot of stuff that goes into building your infrastructure, even just like your YAML files. And basically what they do is they like read in this stuff and they're like, okay, like here's what your infrastructure code does. Here's how you quickly onboard a junior engineer. Because if you're onboarding a junior engineer, they've never seen a YAML file in their life. And you got to be like, here's what's going on here. Here's what's going on here. But now they've like, here, we'll create a chatbot for this. Boundary ML. I love this company. They're based out of Seattle. And they have, someone was asking about, were you the one asking about tokens earlier? Like tokens for models and checking like model token. Okay, so they have a tool that does this in your IDE. It's pretty cool. The founder is also absolutely insane. And basically what they want to do is they want to say like what their approach is who remembers like Intel? Some of you guys look like you're probably too young to remember Intel, but like, Intel, and all these like CPU makers, right? Who like really won that market when CPUs and kind of came about? It was Microsoft and Apple, right? The OSs that built on top of that. If you think about it, like Intel, like Qualcomm, whatever, these are like companies worth in the hundreds of billions of dollars, which is a good outcome. Don't get me wrong. Like if I built that company, I would not be unhappy. But Microsoft and Apple, these are $1 trillion companies. And the kind of like takeaway from that is that these OS companies really won that market. And so what their approach is like there should be an OS for LLMs, right? If you think about building on the web, if you went back 20 years, and some of you guys look like you might be able to remember this. If you go back 20 years and you talk to a web dev and you say, I'm going to give you JavaScript, I'm going to give you TypeScript with server-side rendering, Next.js. They're going to look at you and they're going to be like, I don't need that. Why would I need that? I just HTML, CSS, I'm good. And that's kind of like what they think is going to happen with LLMs. We're going to evolve into building a language just to work with LLMs instead of like all the current existing frameworks. Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, that's a really interesting way to approach that. I don't know how it's going to work. I think it's really cool. I really like what they're doing. They've improved a lot in the last year. I saw their like programming language last year, and I was kind of like, I don't know, man. But this year's a lot better. Code scan AI. So this also checks for security issues. Very similar to the debugging. Very similar to Spike Intelligence, using AI to basically check that your code isn't breaking, and so you can avoid things like the CrowdStrike outage. Was anyone flying on that day? Was anyone here affected by the CrowdStrike outage? No? One? You? Okay, one person, two people? A few people were affected by that. See, that's huge, right? So then you want to be able to scan your code base for things like that. I was very lucky. I flew the day before, and so I was like, nice. There's another one called Go Codio. I don't really know how this got this name, but I kind of like the name. It's kind of like Go Diego, but like, I don't know. It just rhymes. It's cool. They do sandboxing. So guess what? They also do testing. So if you hate unit tests and you hate integration tests, there's a lot of tools out there that are getting built for that. And I really suggest you go check them out because maybe they'll save you time. Maybe you can be like, hey, I never have to write a test again in my life unless you are this person. Okay, and then there's Jolt AI. So earlier we talked about Zenly, Devin. Did you say Alt? Is that what it's called? Bolt. And now we've got one called Jolt, which rhymes with Bolt. And this is another AI software engineer. And they're designed to work with code bases that are about like 10 files. They can edit about 10 files at a time. They say these are medium to large code bases. I don't know how much I buy that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm like that. See, they came up there on their pitch and they were like, we're designed to work with medium large code bases. We can edit 10 files at a time. I was like, I don't know about that, man. But yeah, whatever, like it's a pitch, and they give you this editable kind of like set of like tools, right? So when you're creating a feature, you're going into Jira, you're creating your points for your story. You're like, okay, like we're going to do step 1, step 2, step 3. That's going to take 2 points, 3 points, whatever. They create all this for you. And then they say, okay, if you want an AI to do it, we can do that too. And then they have their AI go and like do all these steps. And you can edit this stuff. So it's pretty cool to see. I really suggest you watch this video. It's actually a really cool video. Then there's Keywords AI. So they do Datadog. They call themselves Datadog for LLM applications. This is another word for observability. So now we've seen quite a few observability platforms, right? There was Helicone earlier. There's Keywords. Arise is sponsored this event. Has anyone heard of Comet? No? Okay, that's another observability company. Pretty much everybody is doing observability. Does anyone remember like the MLOps hype from like 2018 to 2022? Were any of you guys like watching that? No? Yes? Okay. Yeah. So like there's a ton of observability companies that came out of that. All of those observability companies have pivoted into doing LLM observability. So now there's this wave of like Series B LLM observability companies and this wave of like seed stage LLM observability companies. I think they're going to consolidate, so we'll see. And then there's Laminar AI, which they call themselves an LLM engineering platform, but guess what? They do the exact same thing. They provide observability and analytics. So there's a bunch of different names, a bunch of different things, a bunch of different names, same thing. There's one called -X. So this one is slightly unique because they're an AI data scientist. So they're not an AI software engineer, right? So instead of writing code for you, they're going to write code for you. Exactly. It definitely won't have tests. There's no tests involved when you're a data scientist. So if you don't like writing tests, you can consider that. And they work with Jupyter Notebooks and Metabase. I don't know what Metabase is. Does anyone know what Metabase is? You do. Okay, what's Metabase? Oh, it's like a UI thing. Okay. Well, anyway, they work with Jupyter Notebooks, which to me is great because I love writing Jupyter Notebooks. It's really nice to be able to just play around and create a notebook there. I don't have to actually have to like write the whole thing. Okay. Then this company called Millis AI. So earlier we saw Element, which does text to voice. I don't know if they use Element. I don't know if they use Element, but they do sub 600 millisecond voice agents. So one of the reasons why I put this sub 600 milliseconds on here and why they have it on their website is because this is actually really important. When you are talking with someone, when you're having a conversation with someone, the median response time for conversations is between -1,000 to 1,500 milliseconds. So sometimes you'll interrupt, you're talking to your friend, sometimes you'll interrupt your friend. That's that -1. But the median response time is around there. If you're having a really thoughtful conversation, then you'll be doing something in the 700 to 900 millisecond range. But regular conversations are sub 600 milliseconds between responses. So that's why this is actually a really important feature. And so they create these voice agents that can do things like customer service and stuff like that, and they can respond in under 600 milliseconds. Okay, there's a company called One Loop. So I like these guys. They're based out of Seattle. They live in Queen Anne. I also live in Queen Anne. And so, I was like, oh, this is cool. They do Auth0 for APIs, one-line API integrations. This guy came on this demo, and if you watch the demo, he says one line like 3 times. And I was like, dude, you should have just called your company One Line. Why are you calling it One Loop? I don't know, man. That's what I was saying, man. So anyway, they do API integrations. So if you don't like to write API integrations, this is another option. Instead of doing AI for API integrations, you can use what they do, which allows you to do, I don't know, like functional type API integrations. Okay, we're back to DevOps. Earlier, we saw something about infrastructure and DevOps, which was like a chat bot for it. This is an AI-powered IDE. So someone up here says something about Cursor. How many of you guys have used Cursor? Okay. What about like GitHub's, the Copilot, Microsoft's Copilot, okay? Kind of similar things, right? They do that, but they only work for DevOps. So like think about Cursor, but it doesn't work for your regular code. It only works for DevOps. So it's good at YAML, exactly. I didn't build the company. I don't know, man. So anyway, that's what they do. So there's a lot of these AI-powered coding tools. There's Superflex. So one of these guys, one of the founders, actually came to judge one of our hackathons before. They do AI to create UI front ends. So who thinks this is a ChatGPT wrapper? Okay, yeah. So if every time OpenAI has a press release, it scares you, then we'll see. But I like these guys, so hopefully they do well. And then the last one, I think this is the last one on here, is Theneo, which does docs for API documentation. So there's a lot of themes that we've seen tonight, right? APIs, documentation, tests. Oh, I didn't write tests on here. Well, that's because I was writing it when I was like 5 minutes before I came up. So testing, AI for code generation, observability, analytics, and then like pretty much everything else. So is anyone here thinking about building a startup? None of you guys are thinking about building a startup. Okay. Oh, one of you is thinking about building a startup. All right. Well, anyway, hopefully you see some patterns in these seed stage startups and you think to yourself, maybe I shouldn't do that. So yeah, that's the general gist of the patterns. I'm going to take this back to the most important slide, which is a picture of me. And if you have any questions, we can take some questions. Oh, yes. Okay. Okay, so the question is, everything has been automated, AI-fied, except for QA. That's why I think software engineers will have jobs for a while. Wait, what did you say? Okay, so if you didn't hear that back there, it's because developers don't know how to ship code. That's why they have an AI-fied shipping code, which is totally true. Okay, any other questions? Yes. How many startups go to like legacy companies and try to sell there? I don't know, actually. The thing about companies like this, and like kind of Yucheng touched on this as well, is what you got to do is you got to find something that people will pay you for. And the thing about a lot of these companies is that they're based in SF and they build developer tools and they don't go to the Midwest where everybody has like Target and Walmart are, where they're like, hey, so maybe Target and Walmart could use that. I don't know. There's probably even companies with more legacy code like banks or something like that. Yeah, Banks is all COBOL, right? Like someone should just build a COBOL to Java. Like it's because the people who write it can't write production grade code. Yes. Oh, can you speak up a little bit? Oh yes, so they do. So the question is, let me correct me if the question's wrong. The question is, have I seen people do the sub 600 millisecond voice, including like an LLM and stuff like that? Right. So that's what they're saying is that they can do sub 600 seconds, including the LLM. They're building an AI agent that that uses voice. So the way you do that is actually really interesting because the way you do that is you write in a lot of parallelization. So actually you can do your ASR, your speech to text, along with your shit. You can parallelize like your understanding of this. You can stream data into an LLM, and then you can stream data out of an LLM. So the problem with that, of course, is then like if if you switch up what you're saying mid-sentence, it might have trouble. And then how do you determine what is one single utterance, one single sentence, one single interaction? So if I switch up in the middle or if I interrupt the LLM, is that one or is that two different interactions? So there's a lot of really interesting problems in that space, actually. But they do claim that it does work with an LLM. So you can actually even get this with video, by the way. You can get sub 600 milliseconds with videos now. That's what they're claiming. Yes, yes. And LLM execution. So AI agents. So the example they showed, I believe, was like booking something on a calendar. That's what they said. They said 600. Does OpenAI can it do that? It can probably do that. It's probably faster. Yeah. Okay. The commentary is OpenAI's real-time GPT is really good. Okay. Anyone else have any other questions? No questions? Great. Okay, so that concludes our programming for the day. We only have these 2 talks. I know that in the agenda, I put 3 talks and I put like a TBA in the middle. The TBA is not announced. There was no TBA. I did not have time to go find a 3rd speaker. So that's all we got today, guys. Yeah, so if you have any other questions, Yucheng is up here and I'll be up here as well.